Ladies and gentlemen, it's Turpen time! It is so Turpen time. So let's practice. That's right. Okay.
Show of hands for those of you that would like to get this 47-minute program started. 1, 2, 4, that's enough. All right.
As we get ready for the show to begin, no, I'm just kidding. I'm Jay Hanna. I am a native of Adair County, Oklahoma. I am late of Tahlequah and early of Norman, and I will be your master of ceremonies here tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Nice that my relatives made it here on time. Hey, let me tell you, if you ain't giving, you ain't living, right? Celebrating Clara Luper Scholarship and 50 Shades of Turpentine. When you think of what makes Oklahoma great, it comes down to, or perhaps rises to, the quality of our people. And tonight we're celebrating two Oklahoma natives. One is a namesake for our beneficiary of tonight's event, Clara Luper. Miss Luper, yes. She launched a civil rights sit-in before Greensboro, before Montgomery. She was a pioneer for our city, our state, and our nation. And we will celebrate her legacy with a special tribute during our time here this evening. Our other native Oklahoma is larger than life. You know what I mean? He's a personality who inspires, who enlightens, he illuminates. You got it? Yeah, I do too. That's right. I think I'm starting to feel this coming on, Paige. Yeah. Tonight we're going to get to hear from Mike Turpen, and he's going to elucidate, which is legal in several counties here in Oklahoma. He will elucidate us with his words from his book. But before that time, we will have a few stories shared about this beloved statesman. Now, we're honored to have this great group on hand here tonight and the other 4,892 people that are watching at the farmers market. And we've got packed out event space here in this wonderful Oklahoma History Center. So at this time, I'll be bringing up a man who guides this great ship to come forward and offer a few words. But before I do, let's learn about who he is. Dr. Bob Blackburn has served as the executive director of the Oklahoma Historical Society since 1999. He's a native Oklahoman. He and my mother sort of grew up in the same community, had strong roots over around Claremore and Pryor, but they grew up together at different times over in that part of the country. He attended Putnam City High School, which is a good thing that he didn't stay in the Claremore area. It would have been a hellacious commute. He earned his bachelor's degree from Southwestern Oklahoma State University and a PhD from Oklahoma State University. Yeah, I felt it coming on. I really did. Speaking of which, I've had an opportunity to kind of work the room tonight and look around, and I guess my main question is, where in the hell is Burns Hargis? This note just in. Mike Burns sends his regrets. He's apparently keynoting the Oklahoma Cat Hair Macrame Conference at Oklahoma State University and was unable to attend. And then at the bottom he said, sorry about that. Meanwhile, here back at the bunkhouse, Dr. Bob joined the Oklahoma Historical Society staff in 1979, which means that he has professionally chronicled 33% of the history of the state of Oklahoma. And Bob, we won't be happy until we get 100 out of you, okay? It's just the way that it is there. This Oklahoma treasure is the author or co-author of 19 books, numerous articles, and even screenplays, such as Gidget Goes to Spiral Mound. And let's not forget that all-time screenplay that will be appearing in theaters where tickets are sold. September, Pushmataha County. Story of a functional farm family in southeastern Oklahoma. Dr. Bob makes history come alive, and he was instrumental in the creation of the Oklahoma History Center that we enjoy so much. This museum research facility that opened on Oklahoma's 98th birthday, November 16th, 2005. But before I bring Dr. Bob up, I have some special presentations. And I don't know that anybody knows this, and I apologize for just having a personal moment. But after all, I was the one that was picked up down on 23rd Street. Bob, as you know and I have had a long partnership in historic preservation, and I have been an observer of historical artifacts. I'm the guy that found the piece of rail in Guthrie while I was president of the Logan County Historical Society that said 1884, meaning that it was a piece of the original rail that was laid through the unassigned lands. And I took a cutting torch to that. After the freight passed, and took it to the Oklahoma Historical Society. I only recently brought my grandmother's light crust doughboy recipe book, complete with Bob Will's signature on the back, which I think she applied. I donated an Oklahoma flag to the Historical Society, Sands, Oklahoma, which I think Senator Bill Nation was very proud of. No one remembers that legislation. It's all right. He wanted to take the name off, but it's a curious story. I may have donated Alfalfa Bill Murray's pencil box at one point. But, Bob, two things. First of all, I am 3 years short of having been 40 years in the orbit of Mike Turpen. People commit heinous crimes, go to the penitentiary, and get out in shorter periods of time. I was active in his campaign in 1982 when he ran for Attorney General. And he handed out these buttons that said Turpentine on it. And I wore one for a while, but after he got into office, I very quickly disposed of it because George Nye told me that he was this close to filing a intellectual property lawsuit against Mike because he had actually invented the political phrase "Nye time." I told the good governor that it's not really the same, and I think that the lawsuit went away. Now, later on in 1986, Mike looked me up again. He said, "You know what? I'm going to run for governor." And I said, "Guess what? I'm going to go with you, bud." And so tonight I have my 1986 original Turpentine button right here. Yeah, it's worth a lot. I know so because right now on eBay, some eBay purchaser, and all I have is their email address, it just has D. Walters winter chicken dinner.com. I don't know. Hey, I'm just saying. And Dr. Bob, I know the Historical Society must have 4,000 of these, but tonight this is donated to the Oklahoma Historical Society's number 4001 because, brother, I don't think we're going to do this again. All right. Yeah. If I can have just a moment, though, of absolute seriousness before Dr. Bob walks up here, is that I have been an observer and a student of Oklahoma history. As Bob will tell you, I look around for things that I believe should be put in the right place. 15 years ago, I was attending a flea market here in Oklahoma City, and I saw, being a fancier of Art Deco architecture, I saw a piece that I thought was fascinating, and we parlayed for that item. And as I turned to walk away, I said, by the way, where did this come from? As you can see, it's a piece of stamped German silver with a bit of red inlay. And he looked at me and he said, oh, that's from the Cat's drugstore downtown. Dan Provo has helped me a great deal because it's purported to be. But I think it's a strong proportion as I looked at photographs only this afternoon. And it's not the main door, Dr. Bob. It's the door plate where the cafeteria was. And that means that Ms. Luper and her folks pushed on this very piece of metal to start a great movement, not only in Oklahoma, but across our land. And it belongs here at the Oklahoma Historical Society. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Bob Blackburn.
Thank you, Jay. Well, welcome to the Oklahoma History Center. It's appropriate that this event is here tonight because our mission is to collect, preserve, and share the stories of Oklahomans who have shaped our shared history. And I'm proud that a partnership between the Oklahoma Historical Society and Oklahoma City University has done so much to draw attention to the creative spirit of Oklahomans and their stories, and brings people together like this to celebrate what Oklahomans have created. The two people honored tonight fit that description of creativity and service. Clara Luper made history as a champion for justice. Her family, who are here tonight, donated her collections to the Oklahoma History Center. There is an exhibit upstairs this very moment that is a reproduction of the Cat's drugstore lunch counter, a reproduction of her living room, the personal side of Clara Luper, and the public side of the service of this Oklahoman who gave so much for so many. And like Clara, Mike has been a public servant, a community leader, and an inspiration for others. Mike and Clara have made history. And through our partnership, the Oklahoma Historical Society and Oklahoma City University, we will collect, preserve, share, and I think most important, celebrate the legacy of these two Oklahomans. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing this special evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. Now, if there's an empty chair next to you, hold your hand up right now. Is it one chair, two chairs? Oh, there's an empty chair right over there. One right over there. Two over there. Yeah. So, no. Feel free to make your way in there. And if you're a standing guest and you're crumpled in that corner over there, just make yourself comfortable and spread out along the corner. It'll be just fine over there, not a problem. When Robert Henry and Mike Turpen started thinking about having an event to celebrate Mike's book, they also thought it would offer a chance to enjoy some great musical entertainment. OCU's performing arts programs are known around the globe, and we are going to be treated to some special presentations this evening. The first is from Russell McCook, a senior music theater major who came to Oklahoma City University from Tyler, Texas. Russell just completed performing in Lyric Theater's production of A Little Night Music. Tonight, he will share a song from My Fair Lady. He is accompanied by Megan Barth, who recently completed her master's degree at OCU and is serving as a faculty member with the university's Wanda L. Bass School of Music. From My Fair Lady, here's Russell McCook performing On the Street Where You Live.
Down the street it always stared beneath my feet before. All at once am I several stories high, knowing I'm on the street where you live. Are there lilac trees in the heart of town? Can you hear a lark in any other part of town? Does enchantment pour out of every door? No, it's just on the street where you live. And oh, the towering feeling, just to know somehow you are near. The overpowering feeling that any second you might suddenly appear. People stop and stare, they don't bother me, for there's nowhere else on earth that I would rather be. Let the time go by, I won't care if I can be here on the street where you live.
Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Megan. You know, being a being a citizen of the Cherokee Nation from Adair County, and one of my distant Gohusti Adadadonis, one of my good cousins, was a man who once said that all I know is what I read in the newspaper. Yeah. And I went out to pick up my newspaper here just the other day. That'd be the Oklahoma Gazette. And I saw this picture on the front page. And I immediately threw that paper away. Bill Bleakley and his wife, Linda Mioli, they're publishers of the Oklahoma Gazette. And what a wonderful article. What a wonderful tribute. Not only to Mike Turpen, because it's what? That's right. But also, hadn't you just gotten out of the hospital after doing that? Did your doctor approve that? Or is that a HIPAA violation? Bill, I know well, see him all the time. Linda, I've had the opportunity to meet on rare occasions, and she is always a delight. So much so that it's sort of, I was kind of interested in learning a bit more about Linda. What I discovered is that, this is an interesting time. Mike Turpen here tonight, August 15th. It's also that fateful day that Wiley and Will made their last trip to Alaska. It's also the opening concert date for Woodstock 45 years ago. Yeah. What I discovered is that Linda was there. And Linda, where are you? Are you out there someplace? Yeah, you're here. Yeah. Linda, I got thinking about you. And say, girl. I know. It's a little tie-dye going on here for you. I'll bring this out to you in just a minute. But the reason I'm fascinated about this with Linda is because not many people know this, but she played B-flat saxophone with Country Joe and the Fish. Yeah. 45 years ago, she was the only 6-year-old at that concert. What a deal. 3 days of free love and music, peace. It all started right there. To Bill and Linda, thank you so much for covering this event tonight. Doing a great thing for the man. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Are you hearing it? You feeling it out there? Yeah, me too. Our two performers tonight, Russell and Megan, we so appreciate you sharing your talents with us tonight. At OCU, we get to see the work of talented students and graduates literally on a daily basis. And indeed, helping students fulfill their promise is a driving part of the OCU's mission. It's a vision that was shared by Clara Luper. That is one of the reasons that she worked with OCU to establish the Clara Luper Scholars Program. Tonight, as we support this program, we would like to take a look at Ms. Luper's work and hear from some of the students who have been touched by her vision. Following a brief video presentation, we'll hear from OCU President Robert Henry. Judge Henry has enjoyed a distinguished career as a writer, an educator, an attorney, a businessman, and has served in each branch of government. And he threw all of that away to become a university president in 2010. You were on a good roll. You're on a good roll. He was elected to the Oklahoma House of Representatives while still in law school. Later was elected twice as the state attorney general. And he was nominated by President Bill Clinton and appointed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th District, where he served for 16 years. Robert is a native Oklahoman. He was born and reared in Shawnee. He completed his bachelor's degree and his Juris Doctorate at the University of Oklahoma. He was inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame in 2008. Robert's dad and my dad served together in the 82nd Airborne during World War II. And although they are both gone, Robert, I believe that you, sir, continue the airborne tradition of our fathers. First into action, jumping in behind enemy lines, securing a safe path for those who will follow, and oftentimes totally surrounded by opportunity. He's my friend, he's your friend, he belongs to Oklahoma. But first, the story of a powerful warrior in the battle for civil rights.
Behold the Walls by Clara Luper. Behold the walls. Do you see what I see? Visible walls, invisible walls, separating you and me.
The visible walls are crumbling. The court decisions are handed down. The invisible walls are still standing, making us go round and round. Ladies and gentlemen, I present a person who has spent her life righting wrongs, the Henry Lecturer for this year, Ms. Clara Luper.
Well, you know the story of the civil rights movement. Mama went to jail 26 times. When I was in high school, they gave me the name of sit-in, squat-in, lay-in Luper. Some hated Mom, some despised her, but many people loved her.
She decided that the way to deal with desegregating retail stores was to let the children do it. And she and her council devised a series of sit-ins, the most famous of which were at Katz Drugstore. And these well-dressed, delightful-looking young African Americans came in and sat down and asked to be served.
But she believed in education because she knew that education was the key to the society. She said we cannot continue to kick down doors and not be educationally prepared. So as much emphasis that she put on the civil rights movement, it was 5 times that much on education.
She constantly talked about education and the need to do well in school. It was like your mother, your grandmother telling you to do well in school constantly.
I was lucky. I got a full ride scholarship, thank God. Otherwise I'd be, I don't know, probably thinking about, hey, I can't teach because I can't afford it. I have debt. I need to go find a job that pays more money. And so by giving scholarships, you really allow people to do what they were born to do and not worry about making money to pay off student loans. And I grew up in a diverse neighborhood in an urban school, and I said, you know what? I want to get back to those kids because I was one of those kids, and someone gave back to me, and they kind of saved me from myself.
One of the biggest components about being a Clara Luper Scholar was the sense that you had to perform community service. It was an obligation to do it, but it was something that instilled in me this value that no matter what you do, no matter where you are, you constantly have to live a life of giving back.
Community service is definitely important to me because it helps you understand what the community is dealing with, and it helps you give back. I mean, we have been given so much, so in return, I always like to kind of pay it forward. Every Clara Luper Scholar I've ever known is really, really passionate about something, whether it's something political or service or anything really. All Clara Luper Scholars have a passion, and I'm pretty sure it's like a requirement. I'm pretty sure there's a check mark on the interview sheet, passionate.
I definitely be a politician. You know, my short-term goal is is be City Councilman Kraft one day, and then Mayor Kraft, and then Governor Kraft, and then President Kraft.
And when she was ill in St. Anthony's Hospital, guess who her nurses were? Students from the Clara Luper Scholarship at OCU.
Clara Luper knew Oklahoma City University. She liked this place, and this place liked her. We wanted to work with her and to name this scholarship for her. Thankfully for us, Larry Nichols knew Clara Luper too, and he knew what a force of nature she was, perhaps because he is a force of nature too. And Larry encouraged Devon Energy, and Devon Energy began the initial funding of this remarkable scholarship program.
Because of her and because of that scholarship, I had the opportunity to come to an institution of higher education of incredibly high caliber that really, quite frankly, would have been beyond my reach.
There's no way that I could do this without the Clara Luper Scholarship. I never thought about it while I was here, but now being an alumni and being out and looking back on how all the different opportunities I had as an OCU student, as a Clara Luper Scholar, have led me to where I am now. It's really, really incredible.
When I graduate, I'm not going to stop being a Clara Luper Scholar. I'll be it for the rest of my life. So I'll keep serving just like how she did and leave her legacy throughout my life.
So to the Clara Luper Scholars, I would say, keep the struggle going. Do what's good to do. Have integrity. Represent all of us wherever you go. Represent this school, this university. Represent Mom because she believed in you. And you know what? I know you believed in her.
I hated segregation with a passion. I hated it. I couldn't understand it. But someday Daddy said everything was going to be all right. You can say I love you.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Robert Henry. Well, I'm glad to be here tonight. I was invited to the farmers market event, but there are two people. One has been directly mentioned, the other has not, but Tom McDaniel and Larry Nichols, would you please stand up? They are the wind beneath these wings. You know, there's a book written about Oklahoma. Bob Blackburn and I are the only people who've read it. And it's called Born Sober. And it refers to the fact that Oklahoma came into the nation with a problem. It was Indian Territory and Oklahoma Territory, and Indian Territory had to come in dry, and there was a complicated issue. Wes knows a little bit about this, I think, and Oklahoma decided to come into the country as a dry state. Will Rogers said that Oklahomans would always vote dry as long as they could stagger to the polls. And so he also said that prohibition was better than no whiskey at all. But Oklahoma was born sober, but it was also born racist. It had written Jim Crow into the constitutional draft, and Teddy Roosevelt struck it and said, I will not admit this state with Jim Crow in the Constitution. So Jim Crow came in as Senate Bill 1. Senate Bill 1 was passed that relegated African Americans to secondary places on buses and trains and public travel. So Oklahoma was born racist. Alfalfa Bill Murray at the Constitutional Convention talked about, we don't dislike African Americans, blacks he called them, but they need to be in their place. Boot blacks and porters and these sorts of things. This by one of the founders of our country. But we had some great African Americans. Since I've had some heart surgery, some of you know, and I've taken to walking, which you're supposed to do,
and I've been walking in Fair Lawn Cemetery, apartment shopping. You got to prepare for these things. It's the oldest cemetery in Oklahoma City. I found Roscoe Dungee's grave the other day. I found Kate Barnard's grave. These remarkable people who made this place great. And there were a series of women who had special emphasis in civil rights. Hannah Atkins was the first African-American woman elected to the legislature. She was a librarian, she was a scholar, and she was a person of dignity. I was honored to be a pallbearer at her funeral just a couple of years ago. Ada Lois Sipiel Fisher integrated our law schools. I was honored to speak at her funeral and write the foreword to her book. In the quest for civil rights in Oklahoma, they initially came to her brother Lemuel, but Lemuel was already accepted into Howard Law School, and he didn't want to stop his legal career. It was a brilliant thing that Dunjee and Amos Hall and later Thurgood Marshall came up with, to let this attractive young African-American woman be the guinea pig, be the plaintiff. Because it's a little harder to treat people that charming, that bad. And Clara Luper, she came up with another idea. And we borrowed the quotation from the book of Isaiah, and a child shall lead them. Why don't we have the children advance the cause? Why don't we have the children go into the drugstore and say, can we be served? Later, she had an emotional meeting with Mrs. John A. Brown, and Brown's was integrated. Katz was integrated. And Clara Luper, arrested multiple times, as her daughter explained, she moved the state forward. And thankfully, Tom and Larry and others came together. But we have this remarkable scholarship at Oklahoma City University. Tom said that perhaps it had changed the university more than anything he had done. And so I think it's just absolutely wonderful that we are here and that we are honoring it tonight. And it was not, I was absolutely unsurprised when Mike Turpen asked to help us with this event. So, and now for something completely different. Thank goodness it's Monday. Yakety yak, God's talking back. It's we instead of me. Don't tell people your problems because half of them don't care and the other half are glad you're having them. Happy wife, happy life. If you're throwing mud, you're losing ground. I'm like a hitchhiker in a bad town. I can go either way. You got to do something to be something. If you ain't giving, you ain't living. The time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time. Susan and I have a perfect marriage. I don't try to run her life, and I don't try to run mine either. ESEMED, every second, every minute, every day. One we all need to say, it's all good. It's all good. One more time. It's all good. One more time. It's all good. You know, if you use 3-word things, you can say it 3 times, and repetition is the key to learning. Right, Mike? What's the key to learning? Yes, sir. Repetition. Yeah, repetition. Yeah, okay. If you don't take it personally, don't take it at all. Destiny doesn't make house calls. When you take a fall, take a bow. I love this one. I've looked at the law from both sides now. And I love this one. I believe in a God of second chances. How many believe in a God of second chances? I hope there are more than that. Measure twice, saw once. We must think in terms of right and wrong, not right and left. A word to the wise is efficient. You can't antagonize and persuade at the same time. If you believe it, you can achieve it. Mike Turpen is one of the most remarkable men I've ever met. At first, when I met him, I thought, down deep, he's shallow. But I learned it's exactly the opposite. It is exactly the opposite. He has this facade. Bill Bullard said he can be brilliant or a buffoon, whatever is required. And can you imagine? I mean, to me, the trial of the century would have been Gene Stipe versus Mike Turpen. You know, the Prince of Darkness versus the fastest cliche in the West. I mean, can you imagine trying a jury trial against this guy in rural Oklahoma? It would not be a pretty thing. But he is a person who is really deep. He reads biographies. All history is biography. Somebody said, I think it was Joe Biden who said that. Joe Biden has said a lot of really prescient things. All history is biography. And Mike is a voracious reader of history. And he is a person who believes in making things better. His ability to raise money for great causes is just astounding. And you will hear from that, from Polly and from Judy and from people who have experienced what he's done. We almost had to push Larry Nichols back into service as an attorney recently when Mike intervened in a Thunder game and perhaps went a little bit too far, but we'll hear about that. So, but the person that I think deserves, Judy has suffered untold agony, as has Polly and others, but the person who suffered the most from Mike is Susan. So Susan, would you stand up? So. The love that they have for each other energizes us all. Read this book. Read Mike Anderson's advice to David Walters. Read Mike Turpen's advice to many people. Read the pain and the passion, this astonishing story. It has some aphorisms. I wouldn't have gone with the 50 Shades business, but it is a remarkable book, and it tells us about how adversaries become friends, about how we live through pain, and how we make things better. People do not know, I think, that Mike played a national role in victims' rights. It was his view that our vaunted judicial system, and it's great. I mean, it is very, very, very important that we protect defendants' rights in this country. If you don't believe it, go see Put in Russia. But we had gotten a little bit out of hand, and Mike led a national movement to correct that. And he has changed this country and is perhaps one of the most popular attorneys general in the history of the country. So it's really natural that we put these two great Oklahomans together. And when I call Bob Blackburn, who is the greatest guy you can ever partner with, one thing, he's always the smartest guy in the room. And the second thing, he said, you know, they both deserve this. Clara deserves it and Mike deserves it. And Clara's family is here, some of them. Would you please stand up? Clara's family who's here? Now, I'll sit down. The Broadway musicals that you're hearing from are not coincidence. They are some of Mike's favorites. Mike wanted to be a Broadway musical, and thankfully he did not proceed along that career path. But we have some very talented people that will sing for you tonight, and I hope you enjoy that. Thank you all for coming. You are a part of the history of Oklahoma by being here tonight. You're a part of the history of Oklahoma by contributing to this great cause and honoring these remarkable Oklahomans. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And as you're out walking around looking for future sites, remember I am in the banking business and might be willing to do a long-term mortgage for you on a slot of ground. Just saying. Thank you, Mr. President. We appreciate your words about Ms. Luper and about my Turpen. Because what kind of time is it? That's right, and everybody knows that Mike's a big-hearted guy. Among his many roles, he's been found time to be a producer of a Broadway musical. Mike and Susan invested in the Tony Award-winning production titled Memphis. You have to say it just like that, too, Memphis. Here to share a song from the musical is OCU senior music major Isaiah Bailey. Isaiah is from Little Rock, Arkansas. Now, Mike, you might be interested to know that Isaiah received a scholarship from the Thea Foundation, which is one of the favorites of your friend, President Bill Clinton. Know what I mean? Okay, that's right. From the award-winning musical Memphis. Here's Isaiah Bailey performing Big Love.
Some people say that I'm just a fool, a man with nothing to show. They say I got the charm of a mule, but there's something them people don't know. If they could only see deep inside, they'd see that my heart can sing. You see, I got my soul and I got my pride, and I got me one other thing. 2, 3, 4. Open your eyes, I got a surprise. We'll be rocking and rolling till we see the sunrise like Romeo. I'll show you places you'll never go. Call me Big Daddy, 'cause Big Daddy got a big love. Oh, the pretty boys like to look at the kicks, but I'm the city boy who likes chicks. Do you dig? Hey, the part of me that's big. Call me Big Daddy, 'cause Big Daddy got a big love. Call me Big Daddy. Take your wig for Big Daddy. Take a swig for Big Daddy, 'cause Big Daddy got a big love.
This Tulsa native, former state attorney general, and current Flashpoint political analyst is known for his endless energy and humor. His sayings are affectionately known as Turpenisms.
We instead of me. Don't tell people your problems, because half the people don't care, and the other half, they're kind of glad you're having them. He's so smart. That guy told us how the milk got in the coconut.
I'm broke as the 10 Commandments.
Happy wife, happy life.
Happy wife, happy life. If you're throwing mud, you're losing ground.
Mike's Flashpoint counterparts, Kevin Ogle and Kirk Humphreys, have heard them all.
We'll be talking about something. He'll go, you know, really, I'm like a hitchhiker in a bad town.
I can go either way.
This story's like a bad piece of steak.
The more you chew it, the bigger it gets.
One gear. All out, all the time.
I would describe him as larger than life.
Turpenisms have been forming over Mike's entire life. He called himself a Minuteman on his high school basketball team.
Coach, can I play? He goes, in a minute, man, sit down and be quiet.
But he learned the art of motivating people with short, memorable messages after getting into politics.
JFK, President Kennedy, once said about Churchill that he mobilized the English language and sent it into battle during World War II. Words matter. Reagan proved when he said, tear down this wall.
But it was one phrase in particular that helped him overcome what he calls a humiliating loss in the 1986 race for governor, the year it was supposed to be Turpen time.
A few good friends came walking in when everybody else went walking out. And that's when I learned, don't ever walk past an old friend to shake hands with a new friend.
Mike Turpen seems to know everybody. He has dozens of pictures with people like Billy Graham, Robert Duvall, and Bill Clinton even taped a very, very personal note for Mike when he was inducted last year into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame.
When I was first getting to know him and he was always so up, I thought maybe he had swallowed a bottle of uppers or something.
That shows everybody he knows me pretty well.
But Mike saved one of his favorites for his wife, Susan.
I like to say Susan and I have a perfect marriage. I don't try to run her life, and I don't try to run mine either.
Susan loves Mike's servant philosophy of putting others first and yourself second. But he was second to none after she heard him motivate high school students back in 1981.
And I came away and told my friends I met my dream man. And they said, what did he look like? I go, I don't know, but I just loved everything he said.
But it is Mike's signature Turpenism that not only summarizes his outlook on life, but describes the effect he has on practically everyone he meets.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
And even though he likes to proclaim that it's all good, Mike's personal theme song is You Got Trouble, from the great musical The Music Man. So here to present that classic piece is OCU graduate and Broadway performer Scott Guthrie. We are delighted to have Scott with us all the way from New York City to reprise the role of Professor Harold Hill. From The Music Man, here's Scott Guthrie performing You Got Trouble.
I've been looking ahead on the program, so this is a good prep for you right now, because Mike, can I call you Mike? All right, well, Mike, either you are closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you are not aware of the caliber of disaster indicated by the presence of a pool table in your community. Well, you got trouble, my friend. Right here, I said trouble, right here in River City. Why, sure, I'm a billiard player. Certainly mighty proud to say. I'm always mighty proud to say it. I consider that the hours I spend with a cue in my hand are golden. Help you cultivate horse sense with a cool head and a keen eye. Did you ever take and try to give an ironclad leave to yourself from a 3-rail billiard shot? Well, just as I say it takes judgment, brains, maturity, scoring a balk line game, I say that any boob, not you, can take and shove a ball in a pocket. And I call that sloth. The first big step on the road to the depths of degradé. I say first it's medicinal wine from a teaspoon, then beer from a bottle. And the next thing you know, your son is playing for money in a pinchback suit and listening to some big out-of-town Jasper, hearing him tell about horse race gambling. Not a wholesome trotting race, no, but a race where they sit down right on a horse. You like to see some stuck-up jockey boy sitting on Dan Patch, make your blood boil? Well, I should say. Now, friends, let me tell you what I mean. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pockets in a table. Pockets that mark the difference between a gentleman and a bum with a capital B, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for... And all week long, your River City youth will be frittering away. I say your young men will be frittering away their noontime, supper time, chore time too. Get the ball in the pocket, never mind getting dandelions pulled or the screen door patched or the beefsteak pounded. Never mind pumping any water till your parents are caught with a cistern empty on a Saturday night, and that's trouble. Yes, you got lots and lots of trouble. I'm thinking of the kids in the Knickerbocker shirt-tail young ones, peeking in the pool hall window after school. You got trouble, folks, right here in River City. Trouble with a capital T, and that rhymes with P, and that stands for pool. Now, I know all you folks are the right kind of parents. I'm gonna be perfectly frank. Would you like to know what kind of conversation goes on while they're loafing around that hall? They'll be trying out Cubabs, trying out Bevo, trying out tailor-mades like cigarette fiends, and bragging all about how they're gonna cover up a telltale breath with sense. In one fine night, they leave the pool hall, heading for the dance at the Armory, libertine men and scarlet women, and ragtime, shameless music that'll grab your son, your daughter, in the arms of the jungle, animal instinct, mass hysteria. Friends, the idle brain is the devil's playground. Trouble, oh, we got trouble right here in River City. Yeah, you know it, with a capital P, and that rhymes with T, and that stands for pool. I hear you singing, we surely got trouble. Right here in River City. Gotta figure out a way to keep the young ones moral after school. People of Oklahoma City, heed the warnings. Watch for the telltale signs of corruption. When OCU School of Music Dean Mark Parker leaves the house, does he rebuckle his knickerbockers below the knee? Is there a dime novel hidden in Susan Turpen's corn crib? Is Brian Davis of the Thunder starting to memorize jokes at a Captain Billy's whiz-bang? Yeah, it's all good. Are certain words creeping into the conversation of Robert Henry and Mike Turpen? Words like bestseller. And movie option. Well, if so, my friends, you got trouble right here in River City with a capital T, and that rhymes with what? And that stands for, we surely got trouble right here in River City. Remember the Maine, Plymouth Rock, and the Golden Rule. Oh, Mike, we got trouble. We're in terrible, terrible trouble. That game with the 15 numbered balls is the devil's tool. Oh, yes, we got trouble, trouble, trouble. With a T, you got to rhyme it with, and that stands for pool.
We got trouble. Because now it's time to get our guest of honor up here on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, what time is it? It's Turpen time. That's right. Mike, please come on up and take a seat so you can pay attention. Right there. You know what I mean? Okay, good deal. Comfortable? Great. Okay, good. All right. Gonna pay attention to the words of your friends. Hey, 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 hey. Hey, 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 hey. That's right. We'll be in town all week, ladies and gentlemen. 3 shows every night. 2-drink cover charge. Yeah, sure. Let's hold up the hands of those of you that have an empty seat or would like to change places with someone who's been standing for 3 hours. Oh, there's one down near your wife, Susan, that's open. Okay. Yeah, come on down. She's been wanting to sit next to somebody different. Next, Polly Nichols would like to share some thoughts about Mike. Polly Nichols is a community volunteer, philanthropist who has served Oklahoma nonprofits most of her life. She's been involved with more than 20 organizations since moving to Oklahoma City in 1971. A survivor of the Oklahoma City bombing, she co-chaired of the $29.1 million fundraising drive to build the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum. She serves as chairwoman of the Memorial Foundation, Science Museum of Oklahoma. Polly is a native Oklahoma, born in McAllister. I'm told that her family moved there to be near her father. She was inducted in the Oklahoma Hall of Fame in 2009. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Polly Nichols.
Okay, audience, I get to do this now. It's turpentine. Thank you, thank you. And we know that turpentine means 100% all the time. Full throttle, step on it, never stop. And that's the way Mike burst onto the landscape of the Oklahoma City National Memorial not all that long ago. And what an impact you have had, Mike. I understand that if you continue to behave, you will lead our organization as chairman in 2016. And Mike, it will be one of the most rewarding things that you do. You've done a lot of rewarding things, but mark my words. My remarks tonight are going to center really on the memorial. And Mike, shortly after coming onto the board, embraced the need for a capital campaign to enlarge the exhibit area to accommodate several important pieces of trial evidence that have recently been released by the FBI. One of them is including Timothy McVeigh's actual getaway car. I think that'll be difficult. Mike joined John Rochelle's as co-chairman of this campaign. So Mike and John, who was then memorial chair, traveled the state visiting friends and making donors, along with Carrie Watkins, our executive director. Along the way, they raised $15 million for the renovation and for endowment. I asked Carrie for some comments about these road trips. She said it was all about food. One of her favorite stories was having lunch at a fried chicken restaurant in Enid, where Mike and John ordered the super duper chick platter. And John ordered grilled chicken. Grilled chicken? Well, you can imagine what a field day Mike had with that. Now, John tells the story about a press conference held to announce a contribution from a major donor. The press wanted a photograph with Mike and John and the representatives of the donor. And in order to get them all in the photo, the press kept asking John to shift a little further to the left. Reporting on this contribution at the next trustee meeting, Mike, being a good Democrat and knowing that John was a good Republican, said the best part, besides the generous contribution, was to see John Rochelle's shift more to the left. So aren't we lucky as a community to watch Mike have so much fun at fundraising? All right. If we ain't giving, you're not living. How many of you, when the phone rings and you hear, calling all cars, you immediately grab your checkbook and respond with, okay, Mike, how much this time? So a number of years ago, several trustees term limited off the memorial board. Several were past chairs. I was one, as was Frank Hill. We were asked for parting advice to those who would guide the memorial into the future. I talked about making it relevant to this new generation, the upcoming generation, my grandchildren, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Frank Hill, in very lawyer-like fashion, said, don't screw it up. I've loved that advice. Mike has opened the possibilities and the contacts of the Bill Clinton Global Initiative to the memorial. And did you understand that Mike knows Bill and Hillary? I understand that when Mike, at the week-long meeting in New York, Mike gets the best seats and is immediately shaking hands with world leaders and Hollywood stars, and in this booming voice is always talking about Oklahoma, and we appreciate it, and the National Memorial. Did you pick up that Mike knows Bill and Hillary? But you know what? Maybe now it is Hillary and Bill. All right, throughout his book, Mike proves what Carrie Watkins told me about him. Mike gets it. Got it. All right. Whatever passion you have, Mike, you give it your all. You make dreams become realities. You never say never. You just figure out a way to make it happen. You are the ultimate rainmaker, public servant, and friend. If you have worked with Mike, you have been blessed. Mike, we all here love living on turpentine.
Thank you, Polly. Hey, you comfortable there? Okay, just want to check. Is it good? It's all good, right? Just what I thought. Join us. Thank you. Thank you. Be in town all week. Joining us next is Brian Davis with the Oklahoma City Thunder, who has some thoughts to share as well as a very special message. Now, Brian Davis is the only television play-by-play voice in the history of the Oklahoma City Thunder. A veteran basketball broadcaster, Davis had worked with the NBA broadcast before joining the Seattle Supersonics as their broadcaster in 2004. He made the move to the High Plains in 2008 and quickly adopted his new state as home. Now, Brian has called games at the professional level for the NFL, the NHL, and the MLS. And for those of you who thought that the World Cup was an offering promotion by Love's Country Store, MLS is Major League Soccer. He has the kind of personality that makes him seem right at home in the living rooms across our state. An Oklahoman by choice, Brian has become a familiar face around our community, and he is a great ambassador for the Thunder organization. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this microphone, Mr. Brian Davis.
Jay, thank you. Polly, I get the impression that the word ain't doesn't easily leave your lips. I don't have that problem. And I have to tell you, Jay, you set me up beautifully, because these last 6 years have been amazing for myself personally, for Judy, my wife, and our family, for myself professionally, and for us personally. And hopefully, this business will take you to a lot of places, and please God, this is my last stop. This is an amazing place. I do have to say, however, that it gave me pause upon arriving in Oklahoma City to learn that both of our major airports are named after a couple of guys got killed in a plane crash. As long as we're observing that anniversary. An amazing man, and in reading your book, I'm actually going to jump ahead what I plan to say, but in reading your book, I literally could feel the vibe of Will Rogers coming out of those pages, you know? I could feel it. Now, early in my career, I got a chance, you want to talk about blessings, I got a chance to hang around and literally kind of sit at the knees of guys like Jack Brickhouse and Vince Lloyd and Milo Hamilton and Harry Carey, and I'll throw Dwayne Statz into that, voices of the Chicago Cubs. I would go to what became kind of an after-hours room called the Barge Room, the old Comiskey Park in Chicago after White Sox games. And I would stand there and listen to Tony La Russa, who at that time was a very young manager, and of course he just made the Hall of Fame this year. I'm listening to La Russa and his guys, and the White Sox TV analyst at that time was another Hall of Famer in Don Drysdale. And I used to sit and listen to guys like that tell these stories, and I would think to myself, man, I hope I last long enough to collect the kind of stories that these guys are telling tonight, because this is just where I want to be down the road, you know. So about 5, 6, 7, maybe 8, 10, 12, 13 years ago, I was actually sitting around with a group of young people that I worked with in Chicago, and all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, I'm the guy telling the stories, you know? And it was kind of almost a rite of passage sort of moment. But I got to tell you something, brother. All the collection of stories that I have, and I'm not trying to say you're old or getting old or anything like that, but you could take all of my stories and they would never fill a book like this, okay? And there's some great stuff in here, some great stuff. On a personal note, and as to the matter at hand, education saved my life, not literally speaking, but there were 3 teachers who played huge roles in my formative years. I was literally the fat kid in a working class neighborhood in Baltimore, Maryland. And things at home, I'll spare you the details, but things at home were a little bit turbulent. And I was not very sure of myself or my place in the world. And these 3 people changed the trajectory of my life. starting in 5th grade, with Donald Hose, who was not only a man in a women-dominated profession in 1965 this was, but he was a black man. Barely a year after the passage of the Civil Rights Act, here into my life comes Donald Hose, operating in a neighborhood, and I would remind those who are not right on top of it that Baltimore is south of the Mason-Dixon line. You want to talk about sort of old school values? They were there big time in the middle 60s in Baltimore. Operating at Rock Glen School in southwest Baltimore, where within a couple of years we experienced what one sociologist called one of the worst episodes of blockbusting, redlining, and racially driven panic peddling in the history of American housing and real estate. Donald Hose doing his job at a school where this is true story, and it was funny, our Rock Glen at that time was 5th, 6th grade, then junior high school, 7th, 8th, and 9th, okay? And the 5th and 6th graders, I don't know what signal we got, but the 5th and 6th graders, we stayed on the playground and watched the junior high school kids brawling for a couple of weeks after the busing initiative that integrated on a large scale Rock Glen School. White kids waited for black kids in the driveway, and brawling became a preschool activity. It was an amazing sight, you know? And here you have Donald Hose trying to do his job in this environment. And I actually tried to track him down a few years ago on the internet. I believe he's passed away, but I would love to talk to him now about what that was like, 1965 in that environment. But what I experienced is this: Mr. Hose carried on, he did his job, he helped me to feel like somebody wanted me, somebody believed in me, he gave me confidence, he helped to inspire me to reach for a higher bar. And that's why we're here tonight, to help young men and women reach for a higher bar. And as we change the trajectories of their lives, we will help to change the lives of others coming down the road. And I'm talking about some people who haven't even been born yet. And that's what this is all about tonight. And again, thank you, Mike, for your leadership here. You are all helping to expand the circle of hope. May that circle be unbroken. My grandmother, back in the coal mining hollows of north central West Virginia, would say that Mike Turpen never met a stranger. She might also suggest that Mike possessed a quantity of a substance found in Christmas turkeys. He's trying to figure out a way to clean this up. I was trying to figure out a way to clean this up, and I'm going to do my very best to channel Dorothy Ferguson Bosserman Scott. And if she ever got a chance to meet you, man, she would have said, "That boy's got more BS in him. Indeed, I declare, that boy's got more BS in him than a Christmas turkey." But the fact is that you also never met a man you didn't like. And we come back to Will Rogers. And I would like you all to consider the effect that Mike has had on one particular newcomer to these parts. I have a letter, and it reads, "Mike, I've met a lot of different people from a lot of different places throughout my career, and without question, no one that I have ever met defines what it means to be from somewhere as much as you. Your humility, character, generosity, and thoughtful nature are as clear to me as the fact that getting the ball to Kevin Durant is always a pretty good plan. I came to the Thunder over 6 years ago after spending nearly 20 years in professional basketball as a player and a coach. The first time we met, long before I started calling you Coach Turp, was at a charity event, as you probably recall. And then I saw you at another, and another, and another, and I realized that either you were the most generous guy that I knew, or you really liked the free meals that you get at those types of events. I also realized over the time that I've gotten to know you that you are an incredible ambassador for the great state of Oklahoma. And you're proving again tonight, raising funds for a scholarship in the name of Clara Luper, a woman whose courage and passion for civil rights remain an inspiration to everyone in the community. Through the roller coaster that is the NBA season, I can always count on you to be there with words of positive encouragement. I can hear you now. Turn setbacks into comebacks. ESEMED. Sometimes when it might not be too easy to be upbeat, you always have a one-liner through a post-game text or an email that picks me up. That encouragement can stray into what some might categorize as coaching advice, but it's always welcome. What a surprise, right? It's one of the reasons I consider you as an honorary member of my coaching staff. You will always be Coach Turp to me. Sorry I couldn't make it tonight. I look forward to hearing all about it. Congratulations on your amazing book. Don't relax too much, though, Coach Turp. Training camp opens in a couple of months. I'm looking forward to hearing all about your new ideas for the upcoming season. Thanks for your friendship and for all you do. Signed, Scott Brooks, head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, I may have the toughest job in the house tonight because I got to get you to stand up and come over here, but you can't say a word yet, okay? But it is my pleasure and my honor to present to Mike on behalf of Scott Brooks and the Oklahoma City Thunder.
That's a big one.
And Coach, why don't you turn it around so everybody can see? My work here is done. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much. Again, appreciate you all. My congratulations. An honor to be here tonight.
Thank you, Brian. What do you think, Coach? Is that big enough? Okay, okay. I saw the label on it, made at the Wapanucka Tent and Awning Company, Southern Oklahoma. I think we can stretch it over without a problem. Here to formally introduce Mike Turpen is Judy Love. Now, Judy Love helped her husband Tom to start Love's Travel Stops and Country Stores in 1964. And by the way, that's my idea about the World Cup. Think about that. Think about that. She served as chairman of Love's Family Foundation and secretary of Love's Corporation. Judy's a lifelong resident of Oklahoma City, and she is an engaged community leader. She served on boards of numerous organizations, including St. Anthony's Foundation, Oklahoma City Museum of Art, and the Civic Center Foundation, and Allied Arts. And Judy, working for the Allied Arts, you kind of had to drive around with Mike, didn't you? To like go call on people and try to get money out of them. As a matter of fact, this woman has spent more time driving around Oklahoma with Mike on the behalf of Allied Arts. She has logged so many hours of road time, no doubt listening to Mike's stultifying wit. Judy, we trust that the medication and counseling is beginning to show signs of progress and that you'll be able to return to a normal life and a useful life as soon as possible. Numerous honors, including Lifetime Achievement Award, Distinguished Woman Award from Oklahoma City University. She was inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame in 2010. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this microphone, Judy Love.
Well, what can you say about this guy? The old adage is, to know him is to love him, no doubt. He's bigger than life, as we all know for sure. But I bet everybody in this room, because I know it's happened to me many times, gets real nervous when they get their cell phone and see that he's on it. But you'd just be smart to go ahead and take the call, because the man is not going to give up. Trust me. He will keep after you and keep after you till he gets you, one way or another. I spent, at least a year with Mike. We did a lot of strategizing. I mean, we know a lot about all of you all, I'll tell you for sure. And we had a lot of meetings. We did a lot of emailing. And we did do some road trips. Durant was not nearly as much fun as Ada. We loved Ada. let me tell you. But on those trips, I did very little talking. I listened a whole lot. My guess is nobody gets a word in edgewise but Miss Susan. Maybe Kirk Humphreys, you know, but anyway. He is just the best. I mean, I've never had so much fun. Really. Well, I've had some more fun probably. But I really, we really did have a good time. And I just think that, as we all know now, I mean, if you know him, you know, if you ain't giving, you ain't living, boy. I would like to present to you Mr. Mike Turpen.
Thank you. Give me a swig of water. I like it. Thank you. But at my back, I always hear Time's winged chariot hurrying near. Let me say it again. But at my back, I always hear Time's winged chariot hurrying near. That's Andrew Marvell. And he reminds us that as we get older, perhaps we're more and more in touch with the reality of our own mortality, that life is in fact terminal. And what I've decided, that if you reflect on your life and you realize that we're not going to be here forever, you've heard it here this evening, but it's all throughout my book, ESEMED. Every second, every minute, every day, you must live life to the absolute fullest. And I got to tell you, that's what I am doing here this evening. You may not be, but I am. Thank you for being here. You honor me with your presence and your generosity for this incredible cause of Clara Luper Scholarships. So thank you for being here. I'm very grateful. And I got to say, as I head towards the end of the program, thank you for the symphony of voices you've already heard up here tonight. I'm very grateful. I'm very humbled. And I'm going to start off, Judy. You got to love Judy Love, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, to work with Judy Love is the time of your life. And I want to say that you may realize this and you may not, and if you don't, I'm going to tell you, because I get a few minutes up here, that this is the 50th anniversary of Tom and Judy going to a little town called Watonga and open up a Love's travel stop there. That's not what it was called exactly then, but they opened up a little service station in Watonga 50 years ago, not last year, not next year, but this year. And their slogan was the cheapest gas in town, right there in Watonga. And now 50 years later, 300 stores in 40 states across this country, clean places, friendly faces, Tom and Judy Love. That's the bestseller. Bob, you wrote it with them. That's the Love's book right there. That's the story of Tom and Judy Love, folks. And I think you'd be proud, Governor Bill Anatubby, to say to everyone here, because I know you're proud too, Tom, that Tom Love is a member of the unconquered and unconquerable Chickasaw Nation. Yeah, so thank you. But if you read the book, it's got 3 C's in there I wanted to refer to very briefly, Judy, and it's Chicago, Crown Heights, and the Cedar Terrace Club. Judy was born in Chicago. She lived in Crown Heights for a while she was studying journalism at the University of Oklahoma, and she says majoring in Tom Love to a large degree. They got married on December 26, 1960, after Tom came back from the Marines. And I want to get it just right because I know them all, I love them all, and you do too. Greg and Laura and Jenny and Frank. It's the best family-owned corporation on this whole planet. Loves travel stops. Okay, so thank you. And thank you, Tom. I appreciate it very much. All right, moving right along. Polly Nichols. Let me ask everybody in this room, how would you feel if Polly Nichols got up at this podium for you in any way, shape, or form? Thank you, Polly. I'm very humbled, just like all of you would be, for Polly to get up and say everything she just said. And I want you to know that she built the Oklahoma City National Memorial Museum essentially with a fundraising campaign that she was the chair of, the co-chair of, $29 million. So we're simply carrying on Polly's work. And it's been almost 20 years ago now that the bomb went off in Oklahoma City. Let's be candid about that. Bill Clinton came here and said, Oklahoma City, you broke our hearts, but you lifted our spirits. And Oklahoma City responded. But the heart and soul of the Oklahoma City National Memorial Museum, Kerry Watkins, we all feel this way right now, is Polly Nichols. Polly, you inspire us. So thank you for everything you do for this community. We're very grateful. Brian Davis, October 29th. Where will you be? He'll be in Portland. That'll be our first game, folks. That's the opening. He's looking for a new color analyst. I mean, they're auditioning as we speak. I'm suggesting Brad Henry, Melvin Hall, Wes Milburn. Yeah, Glenn Johnson, huh? Yeah, am I free? Okay, but they're looking. Am I free? Here's the serious thought about all that. Folks, the bookends in Oklahoma City, the bookends of our Renaissance in Oklahoma City, think about that for a second, is the bombing about 20 years ago when Oklahoma City showed the whole nation, the whole world, the Oklahoma Standard, that we could achieve victory over victimization, if you will, that good could win out over evil, that love can master hate. We showed the world that. Oklahoma City, almost 20 years ago. And then about 6 years ago, here came the thunder. So the bookends, in a way, on the Renaissance of Oklahoma City is the bombing and the thunder. And it's interesting, Brian will tell you that Sam Presley takes every new Thunder player to the memorial and through the museum to say, this is what Oklahoma City's all about. This is what makes Oklahoma City tick, this right here. This sacred ground known as the Oklahoma City Memorial Museum, the sacred ground that we think is symbolic of our resilience and courage and compassion in Oklahoma City. Thank you, Brian, for representing the Thunder here this evening. I appreciate it very much. And I love, as you can tell, I love Coach Brooks, and he's nice to say all those things and to, let me text him some advice now and then. I really don't bother him that much. It's just upbeat. It's motivational. Yeah, sure, okay. But Scott Brooks and his wife, they're the greatest people you'd ever want to meet, and they're very active in this community for so many great causes. Well, I want to say this about that. Where words fail, music speaks. Where words fail, music speaks. And that's what you heard this evening from Russell McCook, Isaiah Bailey, and Scott Guthrie. Let's hear it for the young singers that came up there and electrified this place. Wow. Thank you. And I told Robert Henry we had to have You Got Trouble right here in River City, the old Robert Preston tune from the Music Man, because Robert's a music man, and not exactly like Harold Hill, but to a certain extent, I told Dick Size, you'll like this, I told Robert, you're kind of a music man in a Descartes way. Descartes, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. And I'm kind of more of a music man in a Rousseau way, I feel, therefore I am. Intellectual, emotional, but all of it together, we're kind of like, the music man, so to speak. Okay. Those young singers following the tradition at Oklahoma City University, in the tradition of Christian Chenoweth, Kelly O'Hara, Jane Giroux. Leona mentioned the list goes on, but what a beautiful list that is. So congratulations and thank you for being here. You made our evening. Robert Henry, I wanted to mention the fact that he is the music man to the extent he loves music. He played the piano at the First Baptist Church in Shawnee. Did you know that? Seriously. He loves Handel's Messiah. Amal and the Night Visitors is your favorite. This guy loves music. He loves classical music. He loves Broadway music. And he also loves to garden. I'm trying to point out things you may not know. It's known that Robert not only loves gardening, but he talks to his plants. And he's good at it. And what I want to say here tonight, Robert Henry, your friend, my friend, Robert Henry, has personally given advice to 6 Oklahoma governors, one of which actually asked for it. So George Nye's here, Brad Henry's here, David Walter's here. They didn't have, Henry Bellman, always listen to you. God love Henry Bellman. What I want to say about Robert Henry, I love him. He's been a friend for life. And if you don't mind, just for a second here, I'd like for Robert and Jan to stand up and say, hail to the Henrys. Hail to the Henrys. Just stand up. Let us show us a little bit of love there. Yeah. Thank you. Bob Blackburn, thank you for hosting this. For 15 years, you've led this organization. You've done good. History repeats itself because nobody was listening the first time. And so you got to keep repeating again and again and again, and you're doing so well at that. He was also the author, I said, of this book, this bestseller about the Love's 50th anniversary, and the Clara Luper exhibit on the 3rd floor. I've been up there. Come back. You got to go see it. Great work. You did good. As I close it out here, I just want to say now it's my opportunity to say something kind of silly to you, but listen to this. Oklahoma is the state of soil, oil, and toil. Okay? We have a rich history, and we are inhabited by land runs. And my family came to Oklahoma in a covered wagon. And if you'd have seen my family, you'd have known why the wagon was covered. And that's the joke. Yeah, thank you. I spent $100 to research my family tree, and once I saw it, I spent $500 just to cover it up. It was not pretty. So okay. I got 1 million of those. I'll stop right now, sincerely, because this is more of a literary evening, don't you know? But here's my story that I wanted to share with you about my family. It's a true story. It involves George Nye, Clara Luper, and Joyce Henderson. Joyce, are you still here with us tonight? Ladies and gentlemen, meet Joyce Henderson. So thank you, Joyce. You're going to have to verify this story later, okay? But Joyce was a student of Clara Luper. Clara Luper taught for 41 years and was arrested 26 times, as you know. But Joyce went with Clara to the March on Washington in 1963. And years later, she was the principal at Emerson Alternative School in Oklahoma City, where soon to be Susan Turpen, was teaching as a career tech teacher. So thank you, George Nye. Way back in the early 80s, George Nye appoints Joyce and myself to the George Nye Crime Commission. I think I got this right, Joyce. So we're friends, and Joyce invites me to give the commencement address in Emerson Alternative School. We have some of the teachers here from that school this very evening. We're going way back, it's back 1982. And at the podium, just like this, at this podium, like this, I was introduced as a speaker, the commencement speaker in 1982, Emerson Alternative School. You were the principal. Thank you for inviting me, Joyce. And who presented me, who introduced me? A young, beautiful, blonde school teacher there, Susan, soon to be Turpen. And that's how we met. We met at the podium at Emerson Alternative School. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Clara Luper. And thank you, George Nye, for putting all that together. Okay, here's the serious part of the evening, and it's all about this one fact. Robert did a good job of pointing it out. A lot of people don't know it. I'm a bookie. You're a bookie. That's why you're here tonight. I love books. I love bookstores. I love book signings. I love everything there is to know about any book, anytime, anywhere. I love particularly independent bookstores. Full Circle bookstore. You got a bookmark in your book. We love Full Circle. They're selling my book. I appreciate it. They just keep ordering more. Thank you, Jim Tolbert. I believe fundamentally that a room without books is like a person without a soul. That's a little bit strong, but that's just kind of how I was brought up. I still believe in the ancient technology of ink on paper. I'm a Gutenberg kind of guy. Thank you, Patrick McGuigan. He's cheering back there, all right? No man is an island, and every book is a world. A book can take you anytime, anywhere. That's the beauty of books. I also believe that every person in this room is like a book or a volume if we just take the time to read each other. And if you believe that, you believe this. This room tonight is a room full of bestsellers. So once again, thank you, all of you, for being here. I am very grateful. So on to the books, and then we're going to wrap it up. But this book right here, The Outsiders, S.E. Hinton, rite of passage for a lot of kids all over the world, 30-year anniversary of the movie. This book is based on poetry. It's based on that incredible line, "Stay gold, pony boy." But "Stay gold" is a poem by who? Robert Frost. Stay gold, pony boy. I believe in the power of poetry. All through my book, you'll see references to poetry. Vicki, you wrote a story about my poetry club several years ago, the young men that I had memorized poetry in their life. I believe to see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. When was the last time you held infinity in the palm of your hand? Think about that, please, tonight and for the rest of your life. The opportunity to hold infinity in the palm of your hand. That's William Blake in 1800. But such powerful words he puts together in just a simple verse. When did you last hold infinity in the palm of your hand? I expect when your first child was born. Maybe your marriage. Maybe when you walked your daughter down the aisle, which I haven't done yet. But Sarah's in New York right now, learning how to break the silence of a room with the sound of her voice on Broadway, or perhaps off Broadway. We'll see. That's where Sarah Turpen is tonight. And Patrick's at home recovering from a minor surgery, but major to us. Sean Turpen's here tonight. Thank you, Sean, for being here. But I believe in the power of poetry, and that's what the book, best-selling book, The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, was all about. Robert, it's the 75th anniversary of Grapes of Wrath this year by John Steinbeck. And remember that incredible vignette in this book where Tom Joad looks at his mother and said, "Wherever you see somebody struggling to be free, look into their eyes, Mom, and you'll see me." Wherever you see somebody struggling to be free, look into their eyes, Mom, and you'll see me. It's a great literary passage right here, Grapes of Wrath. Later to be performed this year at Oklahoma City University, Grapes of Wrath. Invisible Man. Ralph Ellison, 100 years ago. You guys had a symposium at OCU about Ralph Ellison. Incredible book about the plight of an African American in 1950s America. He said he left home from his mom armed with her grit and wit. Mama's grit and wit. That says it all to me, grit and wit. By the way, by the end of the book, you know what he's saying. The Invisible Man, he said, "I'm coming out. I'm coming out." African American mentors in my life, one of them's here in the room tonight. I hope he's still here. He was the first African American chairman of the OU Board of Regents in history. He's my law partner, Melvin Hall. Melvin, you still here? Yeah. Thank you, Melvin. Yeah. Melvin's my law partner. We practiced together, how long? About 20 years, man. He does the hard work. I take the credit. So, you're not. Here's a story I'd like to end with. And this is a African-American mentor in my life. Years ago, I first started in Muskogee. His name was E.M. Guillory. Now, E.M. Guillory was my mentor, and I was his protege. This story's in my book. And here's how it goes. I'm brand new in Muskogee, fresh out of law school, suffering from what you call maltuition, that sort of thing. But I got a job in the real world. I'm doing good. And later, E.M. dies, and his wife asked me to eulogize him at the Antioch Baptist Church in Muskogee, Oklahoma, presided over by Reverend Ben Noble, as I recall. And for people that are from Muskogee, you know what I'm talking about. But the story about the young child that went to the old wise man, this is what E.M. told me. This is his story. But it's one of the more powerful stories in my whole life. Young child goes to an old wise man, and he said, "Oh, wise man, I wrote my name in the sand on the beach, and soon the tide came in and washed my name away, and my name was gone. Oh, wise man, I carved my name in the bark and the side of a tree, and soon the tree grew, and my name was gone. Oh, wise man, what really matters in this life? What's this life all about anyway? Oh, wise man, I chiseled my name in the stone in the side of the mountain, and soon the wind blew, and he wrote my name away, and my name was gone. Oh, wise man, what really matters in this life? And the old wise man looked to the young child. He said, write your name, inscribe your name in the hearts of your fellow man. And you, my child, shall live and endure forever and ever and ever. That's what life's all about. So I want to say to you here this evening, I'm preaching to the choir, that we can leave our name in the hearts of other people, every one of us, leaders in this city, leaders in this state, leaders in this country. We leave our names in the hearts of other people just based on how we treat each other, how we help each other, how we respect each other. We have that opportunity. So thank you for being here this evening. We may go on a little bit longer if anybody wants to, ask a question or two about the book or about anything this evening. But I just want to say that my favorite Supreme Court Justice, Sandra Day O'Connor, Robert's very good friend, Jan's very good friend, says that the secret to happiness is 3 words. Work that matters. Work that matters. And I think everyone in this room here tonight, you know what I'm talking about. Your church, your synagogue, in your home, in the community, we're all doing work that matters. So thank you very much for being here tonight. We all appreciate it very much. And we've raised over $150,000 for the program that Larry started. Thank you, Larry, for Clara Luper Scholarships. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Anybody wants to?
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Turpen time. Well, Mike, I while you were talking, I, of course, was paying attention, and so therefore I called down to the farmer's market. And someone found the TV clicker, and they're watching extreme couponing down there at this time. We're going to have a Q&A session at this time. We're going to ask Mike some questions. Now, before we start, I know you're out there thinking, well, wait a minute, I have a riveting question. I want to ask a little bit of advice from Mike. Mike, I've studied it. I've been reading books. I understand the human mind can process words at 425 words a minute. The average American speaks at a pace of 125 words a minute. And over in Adair County, where I'm from, we'll gust up to about 90 words a minute on a good day. Now, even with Mike, who's just finished up, and I clocked him, he's talking about 160 words a minute just a little bit ago. And it's all good. But Mike, you got to remember this, brother. You've come to talk. We've come to listen. We may finish before you do. Just think about it. Just think about it, okay? You got it? You got it? All right. We want the hard questions right here from the audience. Stand up. Shout it out right now.
Comments or questions? Anybody?
Mike, are you going to run for politics again?
Yeah.
Are you out of politics, or are you going to run for something again in the future?
Next question. Yeah. He said, are you ever going to run again? And the question is, I understand. The answer is, not a chance. But I am running for Father of the Year, and it's usually a close vote, about 2-1, one or the other. So, no, I encourage everybody else to run, but my time doing that is done.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Can you tell the audience what the 5 3-word phrases are for a successful marriage?
Yeah. Well, folks, everything they're asking me is in the book, and so get a copy back there and read it. And I enjoyed writing it. It took a while, several years, in fact. But one of the fun parts of the book is a chapter about Susan and I, and the way I feel like we got marriage figured out. You already heard the one-liner. We have a perfect marriage. I don't try to run her life. I don't try to run mine either. You heard that. But here's the honest truth. And I said this at Rotary Club 3 or 4 years ago. And it's 5 3-word phrases, Wes, that every man should use to ensure matrimonial bliss. 5 3-word phrases that every man should use to ensure matrimonial bliss. Number 1, I love you. Number 2, you look beautiful. Number 3, let's eat out. Number 4, can I help? And number 5, it's my fault. It's my fault. Yeah. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's in the book. It's in the book. And Sean Turpen's here, and he just got engaged last week to Ashley. So you need to.
Mike, I want you to tell us something that's not in the book and tell us why you left it out.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Elmore Leonard, if you're bookies, and I know most of you are, that's why you're here. And who's your favorite author? Well, one of my favorite authors is Elmore Leonard. And he said the way you write a good book is you leave out the parts the people don't want to read. That's what I did. I left out all the parts that nobody wanted to read. And I think I was smart doing it, you know. The truth is, if you ever have a chance to write a book, folks, you ought to do it. And it's hard because you do worry about who you might offend. I mean, that's honest to God truth. I mean, one of the more spiritual times of my life, if you read the book, you'll understand that Susan and I have taught Sunday school classes together, the confirmation class at Westminster Presbyterian Church, where we tell the young people there, and they've come back years later and told me that this makes more sense to them now, Susan. But I always preach to them that turn your theology into biography. Turn your theology into biography. Whatever your theological beliefs are, you got to make it part of the biography of your own life. And I don't know. It's pretty strong for young people in the 8th grade, just going through a confirmation class. But they come back years later. They said, we know what you're talking about. And one of our students, and I was his mentor, was Graham Bennett. And that's Clay and Louise's son in our church. I'll never forget Clay telling everybody, I've entrusted my son to Mike Turpen for spiritual development. Oh my gosh. But I was proud on Senior Sunday when Graham Bennett got up there and started talking about you got to turn your theology into biography. But in any event, I'm over in Muskogee. It's one of the more spiritual times in my life, I promise you, because I'm prosecuting 2 judges. One judge for embezzlement, the other judge for bribery. I looked under the hood of my car. I got friends here from Muskogee, Gary and Carol Parker. You know what I'm talking about. We're cleaning up the county courthouse, don't you know? I'm looking under the hood of my car for bombs. It's honest to God truth. And that's how bad it was over there at one time in Muskogee County. It's better now. It's better now. But that I'm talking about you pray to God that you have a guardian angel looking out over you. That's what I'm talking about. So, well, a lot of that's in the book, folks. But I didn't name judges by name. I just told the story. And it's my story, so why can't I tell it? I don't know, you know. Yeah. Glenn Johnson, Chancellor of Higher Education. We're on the Higher Ed Board of Regents together. Who else is here with us tonight? Ann Holloway, Jody Parker, are you here? Ike Glass, you here? Those are all regents.
We've almost got a quorum.
We almost got a quorum. It could be a violation of the Open Meeting Act. I'm the new chairman of the Higher Ed Regents. I don't want to do anything that gets me in trouble. Help me out, Glenn.
Okay, I'll help you out. Anybody here who has heard Mike Turpen give a commencement speech, a Chamber of Commerce speech, or a campaign speech, which is everybody in this room, always hears Mike Turpen talk about if you're going to be successful in life, you've got to have a funny bone, a wishbone, and a backbone.
Yes.
Let me say it again. Funny bone, wishbone, backbone.
Yeah, brother.
Funny bone, sense of humor, wishbone, the ability to dream, backbone, character, and wisdom.
Yeah.
That's not in the book. So our
Yeah.
question is there going to be a second edition of Turpentine?
Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go. Can you believe it? Ladies and gentlemen, he's right. This all started out down in the Burridges. I get those 2 towns mixed up down there now. Antlers? Yeah. So I gave a commencement address at Antlers High School a few years back. Sean Burridge, no, his dad. Sure, Judge Burridge, Mike Burridge. He said, Mike, keep it short. You know, it had already been a long night. I got up and said, I'm going to be the shortest commencement speaker in the history of Antlers High School. And they all start cheering. And I said, you're going to hear about a funny bone, a backbone, and a wishbone. Now, a funny bone's a sense of humor, a backbone's a sense of courage, and a wishbone's a sense of idealism. Now, a funny bone's sense of humor, Will Rogers said humor is a passport to the heart. And you got to have a sense of humor to keep life in proper perspective. And I told him that. I said, you got to have the gift, the quality of self-directed humor. I said, the famous Lincoln-Douglas debates. Stephen Douglas gets up and says, my opponent, Abraham Lincoln, talks out of both sides of his mouth. In fact, Abraham Lincoln is two-faced. Lincoln gets up and says, I'll leave it to my audience here this evening. If I had 2 faces, do you think I'd be wearing this one in front of you here tonight? So that's Abraham Lincoln. And he knew that you had to have the gift of self-directed humor to keep everything in proper perspective. Shakespeare said, show me a man who never makes a joke, and I'll show you a man who stands as a joke to the whole world. You can't take yourself too seriously. If you do, you internalize it, you tighten up your chest, you perforate your stomach. We all know that's true. So you gotta have a quality of self-directed humor. That's a funny bone. Well, backbone's a sense of courage. And courage is being scared but saddling up anyway. If you have the courage to do what you believe is right, you get a reward. The reward is self-respect. I told the young people in Antlers that you can be alone without being lonely even on a Saturday night because you have that quality of self-respect, because you have the courage to do what you believe is right. A funny bone, a backbone, a wishbone's a sense of idealism. We believe in we instead of me. We're all fellow travelers on the spaceship Earth. We're all in this thing together. I looked at my watch and said, 4.5 minutes, Antlers, Oklahoma, thank you. See you next year. So anyway, it's just a commencement speech. But, you know, I left it out of the book. Maybe I should put it in there. Anything else? We've been here a long time, folks. Yes, ma'am. Vicki Gorley. Yeah. Right. Well, we started a poetry club where we inspired these young people. John Kennedy's here. You know what I'm talking about, brother. And it's all about the power of poetry. And so these young men, Patrick Turpen's friends, you would know so many of them, they began to memorize poetry. If by Rudyard Kipling, A Psalm of Life by Longfellow, I mean, a series of poems. They love the poem by Robert Frost. You know, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening. We have miles to go before we sleep. And we all do, don't we? But do you know Ford Price? Ford and Sherry Price Edwards, you know? Well, their son, Ford Price, his senior year at Heritage Hall, was fighting the most serious kind of cancer, Ewing sarcoma. And we went to the hospital every day, and he was taking the chemotherapy. He called it his Gatorade. But the courage these young men have, you know, when they're fighting cancer, Ford Price, specifically is who I'm talking about. He became the kind of the theme for that season for Heritage Hall to go all the way to the state championship. And their motto was finish, finish. And if you know the custom over there at the Children's Hospital, when you finish your last dose of chemotherapy, I know there's people here that have raised a lot of money at the Children's Hospital over there. You go in and ring the bell when you take your last dose of chemotherapy. Well, Ford Price, who we're talking about, you know, he beat cancer, rang the bell. By the way, Bob Stoops came to see him countless times without any press, without any accolades. It's one of the things Bob Stoops does. But we always had on the wall there the poem, If, by Rudyard Kipling, inspiring 40 boy to overcome the odds. And it's kind of cool because last week I got a text from Ford Price, and he's out in California right now at his sister's wedding. Kate's getting married. He said, Mike, I just read the chapter in your book about me. He said, it made me feel so good. He said, thank you for telling the courageous story of my life. Anyway, the idea that we all get to work with young people. I think young people spell love T-I-M-E. They spell love T-I-M-E. You just got to be there, don't you? And I mean, I'm not trying to be sanctimonious or self-righteous. I missed a soccer game, but when you were playing football, I don't think I missed many games. I came early, I came late, baby. I mean, I wanted to take it all in. And I'd call the coach on the other team and get a video of your game just to kind of, because I wanted to keep it forever, man. I mean, that's how kids are. You got to be there, right? They spell love T-I-M-E. Let's see. Thank you for the question. And thanks for the story you did about those boys, those wonderful boys. Yes, sir. You ready to go?
How you doing, Mr. Turpen? My question is for you. You and my grandmother always had, I'm sorry, my name is Jason Luper. You and my grandmother always have this great ability to get people to believe and giving. How do you get people to feel so passionate about your beliefs?
Yeah. When it came to tonight, Clara Luper, once again, if you haven't seen the exhibit upstairs, you got to go see it. Good job, Bob. Got the whole lunch counter up there. Devin started it. Larry, you started it back in 2004. But let me say to you this. Robert Henry, we got to wrap it up here, but Robert Henry got together, and he was nice enough to say, Mike, it's a good book. Let's get together and have a book review. Well, why get together and just have a book review if you can raise money for a good cause? So we decided to raise about $25,000, you know, for the Clara Luper Scholarships that you started, Larry, and to keep a good thing going. That's what we decided to do. This looks like a prop. I just happen to have it. I don't want to embarrass you. says Anatubby. Governor Bill Anatubby, when he was running for office, I had that. And this is my sports coat pocket. And I had it here this evening. But let's be candid about that. Robert and I were going to raise $25,000 for Clara Luper Scholarship. You started back in 2004, Larry. And the first $25,000 came in from you, the governor of the Chickasaw Nation, Governor Bill Anatubby. So, thank you. So once you've already reached your goal with one phone call, and we all drove a day to Judy. We drove day to. Judy and I were trying to raise $3.2 million for Allied Arts. We had $3.5 million, and we could still be going if they wanted us to. But raising money for a good cause. The answer is, sir, that when you're raising money for Clara Luper and her legacy, that's a pretty easy phone call to make. That's a pretty easy email to send. And then you follow up a little bit, and everybody's saying, Mike, we don't know much about your book. We like you okay, but we love Clara Luper. Now, that's what happened here tonight. And you know what? We raised over $150,000, and we started with 25. So hey, the answer is you got to believe. You know, you got to believe. It's in my book. Sales is a transference of belief. You know, let me read one thing from the book, and then we'll be done. I hated to pick my book up after I talked about all those other bestsellers in Oklahoma history, because it's really not fair. You got it?
Got it.
Let's hear it for the MC, Jay Hanna. This is a chapter, we'll close with this. It's called To Scaffold Rhetoric. I digress, but there's a great book called Churchill, Speaker of the Century by James Humes. Robert and I are familiar with it, others may be too. In the book, they talk about an essay that Churchill wrote that was unpublished. So the book's based on an unpublished essay by Winston Churchill. The name of the essay was The Scaffolding of Rhetoric. Now think about that, the scaffolding of rhetoric, how to build an oration. And Churchill analyzed an oration and talked about the use of analogy and rhythm and the right vocabulary. But Churchill ultimately concluded and said there's only one thing that really matters in any presentation by anybody, anytime, anywhere. One word that matters. Sincerity. Sincerity. And if you talk fast like me, you can't try to talk slow. You know, I can't do it. Yeah, I mean, I tried to slow down for a case over in Muskogee, Gary, and I lost. And the young reporter said, you didn't believe in that case, did you? Because I tried to change my style. But if you talk a little bit slower, don't ever try to speed up. Don't ever change your style for anybody. When you get up and break the silence of a room, you got to do one thing. You got to speak with sincerity. You got to talk from the pump, from your heart. It's going to be your style. But this is what Churchill said. He said all that matters is sincerity. It's called The Scaffolding of Rhetoric. I read from the book now. And don't forget, we talked about it earlier, but JFK, President Kennedy, said that Churchill mobilized the English language and sent it into battle. Churchill mobilized the English language and sent it into battle. Are you with me, Gene? I mean, Winston Churchill said, if the British Empire lasts for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour. Words. Words matter. One word can matter. And so, here, back to the book. In many ways, this gets back to everything I've talked about in this book, to all the words I've used in these pages. It's about preparation in the courtroom and in life. It's about the ability to get a jury or an audience bobbing and nodding in agreement. It's about sales as a transference of belief, the bit of wisdom Harlan Stonecipher gave me years ago. It all has to do with how deeply words matter and how the sincerity behind those words matters the most. Ultimately, it really does come down to that one word, sincerity. In a 2003 speech to the Law Review banquet of the Oklahoma City University School of Law, Oklahoma District Judge Nancy Coates gave a brief but memorable speech titled simply, The Power of Words. The Power of Words. It's an enlightening and densely packed bit of oration that includes this observation, quote, a single well-chosen word can win a case or a heart or enforce a contract. A single ill-chosen word or comment can, on the other hand, breach a contract, destroy a relationship, or lose a case. You never know what impact words will have, especially public ones, are going to have on other people. But if you remember that one simple word, sincerity, it'll go a long way toward helping you make a positive impact. And I must say to you that Nancy Coates is here this evening, so thank you for letting me use your words in my book Nancy and Charlie Ashley's here as well. Thank you for helping me edit the book. I close by this. I mean it sincerely, we can talk afterwards, but at Westminster Presbyterian Church, I don't need a microphone. We're almost done. At Westminster Presbyterian Church, this is a survey we had a few years ago. I got this from Nancy Riddell. It's our Sunday school class. They asked a group of 90-year-old people, if you had your whole life to live over again, what would you do differently? And we're talking about a group of 90-year-old people, if you had your whole life to live over again, what would you do differently? And they said 3 things. Number 1, reflect more. Number 2, risk more. And number 3, do more things that live beyond your life. So reflect more, whatever your life philosophy is. Mine essentially is that 4F club I talk about in the book. All that matters in life is faith, family, and friends. Right? That's all that matters in life is faith, family, and friends. But to support those 3, you got to have a little bit of money. So the Mike Turpen 4F club is faith, family, friends, and of course finances. And how you manage those 4, how you prioritize those 4, is really the challenge, the opportunity of all of our lives. Fair enough? That's something we teach to the young people in the Sunday school class. That made a little more sense than turning your theology into biography. I mean it's more user-friendly. You see what I'm saying? Okay, reflect more. Risk more. And I think we're talking about risk emotionally, aren't we? I mean, it's in the book. If you don't take it personally, you don't take it at all. That's what Ian Guillory, my African-American mentor, told me back in Muskogee, the one that told me that great story. He said, Mike, if you don't take it personally, don't take it at all. You got to care. Ringo Starr said, you got to pay your dues if you want to sing the blues. You know, it don't come easy. And Mike Anderson, he's not here, but he's in my book. Mike Anderson said in Westminster 25 years ago, he said, there can be no song on your lips until there be anguish in your heart. Is that true? We've talked about this. Reflect more, risk more, and do more things to live beyond your life. Now I think doing more things to live beyond your life simply mean that we want to make a living but also make a difference. We're going to leave the wood pile a little bit higher than what we found it. And those 10 two-letter words that I use in so many commencement speeches over my lifetime in politics, which I'm through with, but those 10 two-letter words, if it is to be, it is up to me. 10 two-letter words, if it is to be, it is up to me. It's up to each one of us to continue to make a living, but to also make a difference. And as Robert Frost would say, I've said it before, we have miles to go before we sleep. Thank you for being here tonight, folks. I'm done.
We're not done with you yet. We're not done with you yet. Please have a seat, ladies and gentlemen. There's only another 14 minutes and 37 seconds waiting. We have restored connectivity down with the farmers market. President Henry, you have things to say. You need people to help you say it.
I have 2 quick presentations. If 2 of the power women in my life, our provost, Susan Barber, and dean of our law school, Judge Valerie Couch, would come forward. And thank you. I have a letter, there you are, from Bob Abrams.
Yes, sir.
And Bob said, in his letter, he said, Mike, I've called you many names in my life, but I've never called you doctor before, and I'm proud that I'll be able to do that after tonight. Oklahoma City University would like to honor you with the highest honor they can give, an honor unanimously confirmed by the executive committee of our board and our chairman, Ron Norick, made that motion, the honorary Doctor of Laws. Now, I want you to speak at commencement next year. But if you would come up, these power women will give you this.
I got all the material for that. Never done this before.
More tangible thing in one sense.
Can I say a few words?
Save it till May. And don't put the cart before the horse. I went to Mr. Hooley's and they said you hadn't been there for a while. In fact, they said you'd never been there. And I ordered 2 ties for you because they don't make ties in your size. But they're specially made, and if you'll take this box and present it, they will give you, in about 2 weeks, 2 special ties. So thank you.
Who? I can describe it.
Thank you for being a part of this evening. Now, we've celebrated the great Oklahoma icon and the great Oklahoma ambassador. We have had a rousing good time here tonight, and I invite you to join with us in a rousing benediction. Isaiah Russell, lead us in the song.
There's some talent.